Okay. My name is Jerry Gill, and today is February 26, 2009. I'm interviewing Sam Combs here at his office in Tulsa. This interview is the O State Stories Project, which is part of the Oklahoma Oral History Research Program. Sam, thanks for taking time from your schedule to be with me today.
Thank you for asking me, Jerry.
Great. Well, first of all, why don't we just kind of go back to maybe beginnings. Can you tell me where you grew up, a little bit about your family and early life?
Well, it's interesting. People ask me where I grew up, and I say, well, I'm a native Oklahoma. I was born in Bristol, Oklahoma. Didn't attend school there, though. My dad was a mail carrier early in his career here in Tulsa, and we lived in Tulsa for a while, and then he got a school teaching job in vocational agriculture in Beggs, Oklahoma, and I started the first grade there, and moved from there in the third grade to McAllister, Oklahoma. Stayed there until I was in the seventh grade. I like to tell my friends that I did 3 to 7 in Big Mac, So, and from there we moved to Stillwater when he went to work for the U.S. Department of Agriculture and their Soil Conservation Service. And so I went through middle school and high school at Stillwater, which was at that time C.E. Donner High School. And from there, obviously, if you're in Stillwater, you need to go to Oklahoma State University.
Or wherever you are, right?
That's right.
Well, Sam, what values did you learn from your family and your childhood experiences that molded you and influenced your life?
Well, that your word is your bond. Number one is that you keep your word, say what you do and do what you say. I learned that very early. And that your name is the best thing you have going for you. It's the thing that has the most value. Everything else that you can own and carry with you is not as important as your good name. And when I think about the people who were most significant in my life, I think about my parents and my grandmother, my maternal grandmother. She went by Big Mama in our family. But my grandmother taught me the value of hard work and perseverance. She was as tough as they come, and grew up in Louisiana, early part of 1900, and very not much of an education, but just a lot of perseverance and hard work. I learned from my mother what I guess I best describe it as civility, and I hope I demonstrated and do her honor in that regard. She taught me the value of saying thank you and being appreciative of things that people do for you. The reality of it is that people don't have to do anything for you. They really don't. And so from that, I guess my saying would be kindness is free. And if we could take some time to say thank you to people, it's amazing what that'll do for you. And finally, from my father, I learned the importance of giving back to the community, and that's something that all of us should do. It's part of the cost for the air that we breathe, and it's important that we be willing to teach others, particularly young people, the value of giving back.
And was your dad a role model for you? He was a pretty special guy. Could you just take maybe a minute or two and tell a little bit about your father, his connections with OSU?
Sure, and I shared some insight to him just in those comments. He was a agriculture major, graduated from Langston University, but attended OSU and took several courses at Oklahoma State University, and worked as a soil conservationist in the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Soil Conservation Service, which the state office was headquartered in Stillwater. And my dad had a love for agriculture and education and young people. And as a result of that, he started a youth agriculture program for minority youth called the Retired Educators for Youth Agriculture Programs. And he partnered with some of his contemporaries who were also vocational ag teachers and heavily involved in the field, agriculturalists, if you will, African Americans, to form this not-for-profit organization, which is still in existence today. And matter of fact, I chair the board, and my wife Rita is the executive director. It's had a tremendous run of success, and it's an organization. It's his part of his legacy, and it's an organization that has been instrumental in the success of many young people, giving them a launching pad for a career. He was a lot of fun. He was a guy that had a quick wit and very bright. Do numbers in his head extremely fast. Great domino player too. Doesn't hurt to be able to count. But when I talk about the value of a good name, he left many friends around this state because people understood his passion for those three things: youth, education, and agriculture. And he blanketed the state with his passion, if you will, and his commitment to seeing things change in those areas. And so people recognize, I believe, a honest broker. And I think in that regard, I would describe him as an honest broker. And so as a result, he was able to open a lot of doors. And consequently, when I came along and I worked with him and actually helped him structure the REAP format, and actually I kind of modeled it after the minority engineering program that I was a part of at Oklahoma State. And but I have benefited greatly from his name and his works because obviously I've got the same name, and as I engage people around this state, and I have a pretty sizable network of my own, but a lot of it has been deepened by the fact that I will show up and they say that's Sam's son, or they had a good relationship experiences with my dad. So,
and your dad was really, in some sense too, was a pioneering African American. Like at the time, he was a county extension agent, maybe perhaps the only one in the state.
Yeah, he was the first soil conservationist African American in the state in that office, and he had numerous firsts in the agriculture field. He was a district conservationist in the late part of his career here in Tulsa. And I used to tease him about going from production agriculture, being in the field, to going to the garden clubs in Tulsa. I remember he had a morning show that I can't remember how early that thing was. It was 5 or 6. It was a television show. And he used to ask me, he says, what do you think of my show? I said, Dad, nobody watches it, But what was interesting was our former CEO with the company one day comes up to me in the hallway. His name was J.D. Scott. And Scotty said, "Hey, Sam, I was up watching this show, and I watch it every morning." He said, that guy's name is Sam Combs, and he looks a lot like you. That's got to be your father. And he goes, "Is that your dad?" And I said, "Yeah." And I go, "You really watch that?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "I've got some pecan trees, and I like, can you get him to call me about it?" So much for that.
Well, I guess the next question I was going to ask was what influenced you to enroll at OSU. I think I got the answer to that one.
Yeah.
What year did you enroll, Sam?
Would have been 1975.
1975.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. It's a great year.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What were your first impressions of OSU as a student? You'd been around, you lived in Stillwater, but as a student, you remember some of your first impressions?
Yeah, even though I, lived in Stillwater, and I guess I was less intimidated by the school than um, some students that would come there. I was taken back, each year about the whole notion of 20,000 students descending on the town, and just the sheer size of it is, even for someone that lives there, kind of takes you back a little bit. But great environment for young people.
What? So did you know you wanted to be an engineer when you enrolled, and what caused you to want to be an engineer? I mean, that wasn't in your family background.
No, I didn't have any idea. Matter of fact, I remember two guys coming to this school. One of them was a guy, actually, one guy by the name of Roosevelt Mack, and he came to visit with me and spoke to my chemistry teacher in high school, who ended up being an advisor at Oklahoma State, a guy by the name of Virgil Nichols. Yeah. And I'm forever indebted to those two gentlemen because they set me on a path for what's been a wonderful career. Mr. Mack talked about this program, the minority engineering program at Oklahoma State, and it was just had been all in existence for maybe 1 or 2 years, so it's very early. And he visited with Mr. Nichols, my teacher, and I remember what was profound and what had an impact on me. I was pretty confident. I was a student, and I was a good student. I was planning on going in business, but like a lot of young people, I hadn't really crystallized what I needed or wanted to do. I just knew I needed to make decent grades and prepare myself, and I would be going to college somewhere. And they sat down and visited with me, and Mr. Mack, Roosevelt said, "Sam, it's kind of the 4 for 40 theorem." What does that mean? He says, "Well, you give us 4 hard years of studying, and we'll give you a 40-year career back." I said, "Well, okay, 4 40. Sounds like a good deal. I like a bargain." I was like, I could put up with anything for 4 years if you give me a long-term deal. And but the key thing was when Virgil Nichols sit me down and he said, "Sam, you can do this. You can do this." I didn't know. I was a little embarrassed to say that people viewed me as a good student and knowledgeable. I didn't know what an engineer did. What I knew about engineering was they drove trains. And I tell that now because I don't want young people to be embarrassed or afraid to try, because I can say, honestly, I didn't know then, and I thought I was a pretty, again, well read student. But his encouragement and telling me that point blank that he knew and he believed but not only believed, but he knew I could do that, was the thing that got me over the edge. And never forgotten that.
Well, can you tell me a little bit about the program and your personal experiences in the minority engineering program and at OSU?
Sure. I think it's a tremendous formula for success, actually, and that's why I think subsequently the retired educators program has been extremely successful. It's because the structure of it was you bring students together and for and create a sense of community amongst them, where they are work together, they live in close proximity to each other, they study together and have shared experiences. So they are truly a class within a class. And for us,
Sam, can you pause this a minute?
Sure. One thing that may not give you what you want, I'm not.
Okay, Sam, we're recording again. Okay, got to pick up on your conversation there.
The Council of Partners Minority Engineering Program, I thought was a tremendous program because it just had a great structure and that gave it a formula for success. And very similar to, as I noted earlier, the Retired Educators for Youth Agriculture program, which was modeled after it in structure. But some of the elements that it included was it created a class within a class for the students. So you got a sense of community amongst them, and we were able to bond, and that create an environment of teamwork and collaboration amongst the folk and the students that enrolled. Another piece of it was that we enrolled early. There was a summer enrichment program. It had the purpose, again, of allowing students to bond, but at the same time, if there were prerequisite courses that need to be addressed, then that gave students an opportunity to get on campus, take some coursework, and also become oriented to college life, and in an environment that was less threatening and less hectic because it was done in the summer. The other component to it was the financial part. The number one reason that students drop out of school, and these, and I'm talking about upperclassmen, is finances. The lack of money. They just flat run out of money. And when you have a state like Oklahoma, which suffers from a lack of college graduates, you really, in order to be effective, in my opinion, have to attack the problem where it exists. And so the Council of Partners you made an agreement with each student. There was a covenant that if you maintain your grades, and honestly, I don't recall if the requirement was a 2.5 or a 3.0. I don't think it was 3. I think it's more like a 2.5, which is a B average, C minus, C plus average, whatever, right there, average student. Then they would retire your debt each semester. And so you had the piece where you had students coming together, class within a class, collaboration, teamwork, people looking after each other. You had the summer enrichment component that allowed them to grow into the college life. You had something I left out was advisors and tutoring assistants available. Okay, and then finally you had the financial component, and to me that's how you enable success. You're not giving anybody; you're giving them a hand up. Not a handout. So I think that's why we were so successful.
You talking about some of your advisors? Were there some professors, mentors who were influential in your academic preparation and your success at OSU?
Oh, absolutely. I think about Dr. Joe Mize, who's a great head of department back then, and a very positive man, and always encouraging to me. And I think that's, to me, of all, is the key thing that adults can do for young people. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And when we, as adults, notice them and encourage them to stay the course, then I think that has a profound impact. And Dr. Mize was good at that, and particularly for minorities who already have that extra pressure and stress on them of being somewhat isolated within some of these fields, to have professors to say, hey, you can do this, stay with it, and this type of deal helps. Ken Case, some of the guys may still be around. I saw Dr. Naismith not too long ago. What was interesting about that was he's well known for his handlebar mustache that he had even when I was in school. But I had worked with my sister on a business that she has, and we used some of their students in their senior design class to do a study for us this year. And I went up and met the students for their presentation day. And there was Dr. Naismith, who was one of my instructors when I was in school. Not only that, my son's a senior in industrial engineering at Oklahoma State now. So it's kind of, how do I put it, a surreal moment to find yourself with your son and, 30 years plus past, one of your old professors sitting there. Then you want to ask, how old are you anyway? So, but great guys. Dr. Estes, Dr. Case, I remember the material science guy. He probably doesn't even remember me, but I understand he's still teaching. Dr. Price. All of those guys had big impact on me.
Sam, were there some academic highlights and honors for you at OSU that you recall?
Well, I think I was a good student. I don't think I was a great student. I think I made the Dean's Honor Roll several times there, maintained my scholarship with them, and I was president of the Society of Black Engineers, Technologists, and Architects, involved in several other organizations. I usually tried to take a leadership role in things. I always seem to, for some reason, find myself in a situation where I felt compelled to step up. And I've never regretted that. I think it's important. And I've always prided myself in if there's an organization that needs some leadership, that I'm going to try to do my best to help out with that.
Did you have some favorite hangouts on campus or off campus?
Well, I like to strip just like anybody else. It was a great place on Friday and Saturday night. And, I was there when the first streaker night occurred. And that was pretty wild, let me tell you. And I'm not sure, that may have been my senior year of high school. I'd have to go look at the date, but living there, I don't know. I found myself down there anyway. But I'm glad I was there, so I can say I tell the story I saw that.
Yeah, historic story. The street night.
But love to go to football games. Spend an inordinate amount of time at the Coleman Center. It's kind of a gym rat, playing a lot of basketball. And that's one of the great things about going to college. Those type of things are available to you, so you can do all of that you want.
Did you do intramural sports?
I did intramural. I played on a team that was sponsored by Ferris Jewelers, and our claim to fame was we won the intramural basketball championship 2 or 3 years in a row. I don't think anybody's ever done that before or since. I think we got the record. And I think the other year we got disqualified. There was a rule that said you could only have one scholarship athlete. We had some guy that had played a semester, had been on scholarship for football for a semester, so nobody knew the deal or something. He could have been a swimmer for all I knew. But we had a very, very good team, and that was some good years.
Sam, was there much, the time you were there, was there very much social interaction between the black students and the white students?
I think from the social part, Jerry, we were for the most part still very segregated as I look back on it. And, we certainly had white students who were friends, and you studied with a few, and international students that we interacted with in class and studied with. But I think that was one of the important parts of that program, is to make sure that you didn't get isolated, that you had a group of students who looked like you to socialize with things. But as I look back on it and think about it, we were quite segregated. People ask, did you have a good time? I had a great time. And I guess there was about 800 or 900 black students in school then. And we had enough of a community that we had our own lifestyle and social things. And so Honestly, I didn't ever think about it that much.
Did you have any, at that point, did you have any less than positive experiences with white students?
Some of my friends did, but not. I really didn't. No, there were things that were disappointing. You always, get concerned about sometimes about professors and grading, but people, as far as seriously negative, overtly negative things, no, I didn't. And keeping in mind, I grew up around Stillwater, so I knew my way around, but I just didn't,
Sound like being in the engineering, minority engineering program was helpful to you too in terms of interacting and with other students, particularly white
It
students.
was. It was. It gave you an opportunity to interact with your professors, uh, having advisors and tutors available. I should have used the tutors more, but I was too proud. And but those things, having that support system from those folks, having the financial backing, and uh, having a community and a network, so you always knew you could get access to uh, uh, friends and study partners and things like that. It makes a huge difference.
Well, Sam, do you feel that the OSU experience for African American students has improved since you were a student there, and in what ways, if so?
I it's difficult for me to tell. I wish I could say. You don't know how much I wish I could say. Uh, yes, but I think in some ways it may have regressed. Um, but and I don't know why. I think the things that we need to be concerned with is why we don't have more black faculty on staff, and not only that, but staff, because those are people that again provide mentors for the students and people who look like them. Uh, and from a policy standpoint, a better understanding of these students' experiences. They are, an African American student is, probably 98% like any other student you got there, but it's that 2% or so that is different. That because of their life experiences, that sometimes just having someone in the court of appeal that will stand in the gap makes a difference. And I think in that regard, um, from a policy and practice standpoint, we can help ourselves there with some changes fundamentally.
Sam, can you tell me a little bit about your career since you left Oklahoma State University? I know you've had a highly successful public career, professional career. Can you share a little bit of your journey
Sure.
there?
I started out immediately out of college, excuse me. I went to work for what was then Southwestern Bell, and I went into their management development program, uh, and it was a very challenging program where they put you in a role of responsibility. And I remember my first job was supervising a crew of people on that were responsible for installation and maintenance on what they call private branch exchanges, or PBXs. Now we call these large switching machines for telephones, and primarily used in large businesses. Um, and the interesting thing about it is I had no idea what they did. But fortunately, my engineering background served me well. So, I could read a diagram, and, and they were patient enough with me. And all of them were older than I was. I had guys on that first crew that had more years of service than I'd been alive. So I was wondering, what am I doing here? But we kept the car out of the ditch, and that was Jerry. That was a test of leadership. There I was, 22 years old, and young, idealistic student right out of college, and thrust into a leadership role. Certainly, it wasn't wartime or anything, but sometimes I felt like it was right in the middle of the oil boom, in Oklahoma, so we had more business than we could keep up with, and so it was just a tremendous learning experience. Some of it was very difficult, and some of it I know would never want to go through again. But you're tested, and but you learn how to lead that way. And I worked for them for a number of years, and then as Ma Bell went through divestiture and it was broken up into the different Bell systems, or Bell companies, I went with AT&T, which was the non-regulated spinoff from the regulated venture, and I worked another couple of years for them before I moved on, and from there I landed at Oklahoma Natural Gas Company. I had worked for Oklahoma Natural one summer, and so when I decided to make the move, that was one of the companies that I sent my resume to, and they responded. I ended up having lunch with a guy who was when I worked there that summer, was a staff engineer or district engineer type. He ended up being the vice president of operations, and the other fellow was a young up-and-coming executive at the company by the name of Larry Brummett, who eventually ended up being the CEO of OOHRP. And Larry Brummett and Jim Garrett, both of those guys, we had lunch, and they said, okay, let's give it a try. And we agreed that I would come to work here. And it's been a great relationship. I've been here 25 years now. And the thing about Oklahoma Natural, who is a legacy company of OOHRP, just an uncommon type of people and culture within that company. And I was just tremendously blessed to be a part of that. They took me under their wing and taught me the way.
And you're being a little bit modest. I mean, you moved through the ranks up to president, as I recall.
President of Oklahoma Natural Gas, and I held a number of engineering positions along the way and in operations for us. I worked in the industrial marketing area for them for a while. I sit in a number of chairs, and that's something that, again, for young people, the road to careers is not always straight up. I tell them often that the only thing that goes straight up is a rocket, and you know what happens to it at the end of the deal. So most of us take circuitous paths, and but I went into it and have tried to maintain a spirit of openness, that I wanted to learn, I wanted to get better. I was willing to take feedback, hear the hard things from people. Even if people are being critical, and even if it's not intended to be the best for you, it's all about who you are and knowing who you are and being able to take the good and the bad, but more than anything, learning from your experiences. And always, that was always my thing. Be open, which caused me to attract good experiences, good and just all types of experiences, and then being willing to extract the positive and learn from whatever experience or whatever role I was in, and then adapt to that and then grow from it. So,
how many years were you at OHG before you then moved to the corporate office here in Tulsa?
Let's see, Jerry, I hadn't thought about it like that. I took this job in February 2005, so prior to that I was the president of Oklahoma Natural, so that's 21 years there.
And Sam, your current position is you're over the
president of the title is president of OOHRP distribution companies, and distribution being the utility segment of OOHRP, and we have within that divisions in Oklahoma, which you're familiar with, Oklahoma Natural Gas Company, which is the largest gas utility in the state of Oklahoma. Then we have OOHRP owns Kansas Gas Service, which is the largest gas utility in Kansas. And then finally, Texas Gas Service, which is the third largest gas utility in that state. And We have over 2 million customers and approximately 3,000 employees that work in this segment of our business. And revenues last year exceeded $2 billion and approached $3 billion, actually. Asset base is in the $3 billion range. So it's a sizable operation. A lot of great people that whose whole purpose and mission is about delivering reliable natural gas service to our customers in these 3 states.
What accomplishments and special recognition in your career have given you the most satisfaction?
Jerry, I'm not really big on awards and notoriety. I appreciate them, and I've got many firsts in my lifetime. I haven't really even sit down to think back on, those things. I've been too busy working. And one of the things I always say to people is I appreciate one of my coworkers that maybe picked up on the essence of my personality and things when they gave me a couple of Christmases ago a table book titled Work. And it's a pictorial accounting of people across the planet going about their daily work, living their lives and doing their work, from working in a rice paddy field to fishermen in Indonesia to a construction worker in Chicago. Sometimes, the joy and the reward is in the work. I tell people, find something you enjoy doing, something that you have a passion for, and go do it, and do it well. And oftentimes what I see is people are looking for something that's not there. They're working in a job that they're not happy with, or a role they're miserable because maybe the money's good and this and that, and there's just all the wrong reasons. And so I'd say that to you, that sometimes the joy and the satisfaction is in the work itself and the job well done. And so if we can get there, that's a big part. The other thing, I did have a couple of things on the list that I thought was pretty neat. I made the Black Enterprise Magazine's list of Black executives, corporate executives, 75. That was back in 2005, top. And then most recently, they updated their list and it's the top 100. And I guess
Top 100 most influential businessmen in
yes,
America.
in America.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. And I think that was, it's not anything that I had to have or anything. It was nice because it's about, I've always admired, when I grew up early in my career, or early when I was in school even, I used to get that magazine, and I always knew I wanted to work in corporate America. And I saw people in there who were kind of role models for me, that had been successful, that had pioneered out space in corporate America, who had been very successful in making the executive ranks, into the C-suite of large companies. And just kind of reading about their story was inspirational to me. And never thought I would ever be in that position, but certainly it was something that once they notified me and said, hey, that's pretty neat, because
Sure.
that experience of that, I know that there's probably some college student out there that aspires to be to make it in corporate America, and maybe they look at my story.
Highlights, Sam, you and your teams, your company have done as you look back kind of in your career, some highlight times and your team, some breakthroughs you had, things you did that were special to you?
Well, one of the things, the biggest motivators for me is winning and winning as being a part of a team. Winning as a team. And, you know, a lot of people go through life without ever, or very few times in their life, getting to feel what it's like to win. And to win, and I think winning's always better if you can share it with others. So being a part of a team, and you know from your sports days, how being an athlete is how that feels. And so I've kind of taken that athletic background to corporate environment, and have a great desire when I work with our team and our group is to let the workforce and people who work with me experience what it's like to win as a team. And we've won a lot, obviously. We've done well. We've always exceeded expectations in terms of delivering values to the company. And we've been through many years of consolidations and business cycles and things where we've had to manage and lead our business from difficult circumstances and yet be successful. The last 4 years, we've had 4 record years in a row at OOHRP, and we've created an additional almost $1 billion in enterprise value within our segment alone. And it's the result of, I believe, of good people committing themselves to a strategy and then working diligently on that strategy. And for us who are placed in a leadership role, we have to understand that there's 2 things going on here that makes for the successful results. And I always tell people results matter. You know, results matter. At the end of the day, if you're in the corporate game, you know, results matter. Business is about results, so I can't stress that enough. But that's also what makes it intoxicating. But you have to also have fun. Sometimes people get to work and they go, it's good to have fun. It's okay to have fun, but it's a lot more fun if you're winning and if you're getting results. So there's 2 things, 2 factors. Because I believe strategy is oversold, but I tell people about strategy, you got to have one. I don't know if you're going to walk the ball up the court or you're going to run it up the court, but you got to, you know, you can win with both. You got to know you got a strategy, because sometimes I said, even if you don't have a strategy, you know, that's a strategy, because then your strategy is, I don't have a strategy. Okay. And I see that sometimes. But leadership beyond that strategy, leadership and management, they're not the same 2 things. I see a lot of people who are good managers and they just grind away. But to get to the top of the mountain, you need leadership. You gotta have, but you have to have both to be the best. I hope that helps.
It does. Sam, kind of change this a little bit. Maybe
Sure.
talk about some of your involvement, engagement in community service things, church. Can you share a little bit about the organizations you work with and some of the things you've done?
Absolutely. I've, you know, for years I was involved with the YMCA structure around this state. And as I moved around in my job, I recall Rita and I at one time moved about 8 times in 12 years. And I always was a Y member, so I finally figured out I might as well be on the board, you know. And so worked a lot with the United Way over the years. As I mentioned earlier, the retired educators. I've chaired the Urban League. Consider myself an urban leaguer for life. And that Oklahoma City affiliate, by the way, we had some tremendous success there in growing that affiliate, and I think they just have continued to do a great job. I'm a worked with Leadership Oklahoma for many years on their board. I was president of that organization. As you know, spent time, many years working with the Oklahoma State Alumni Association and their board, and my way of giving back to our university. I'm I was proud of my affiliation with the Oklahoma City Chamber, and just about every community I've ever lived in. I always, Tulsa chaired their Step Up Tulsa initiative, which is a kind of a community economic development effort to get the things regenerated in Tulsa. Serving currently on the Governor's Edge policy board. It's the board that manages a fund that is expected to anticipated one of these days to be a $1 billion research investment type fund to drive economic development in Oklahoma from a research and technology standpoint. Currently, though, it's about a $150 million fund. So as we wait for the legislature over time to appropriate money to that, it's still a very good effort. So I think you those that can should. If you have some ability, talent, public school foundations, I've been involved with those. I lose count of some of the things, but great things where you can make a difference in your community. And just about everybody can do something.
And what about your family? You shared a little bit about, I know you invest a lot of yourself into your family. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I love to. Married for 28 years to a great lady, Rita Combs. She's maiden name was Rita Moore, and been my partner for. Our families knew each other. Our parents went to school together, to Black public school there in Bristol, and she says we were crib babies. I don't believe that, but I'm not going to say that, go that far. But we certainly have been close, and we have 3 wonderful children. I'm very proud of them. They've done extremely well in school, and have good careers going and making themselves productive citizens. They're all young adults. My oldest is a girl, Erica. She lives in Dallas. She's working in corporate America. My oldest son, Samuel Eric, is the middle child, and he works in corporate America in Dell Computer. And I can brag on my kids. I have to be careful here, My daughter's got 2 degrees, and it's my son's a computer engineer, and the youngest is still at Oklahoma State. He's got a bright future ahead of him. He's kind of entrepreneurial, but he's already got a job lined up in the corporate arena.
Did all the kids get degrees from OSU?
The youngest one was the one that stayed in state. The other 2 went out of state. The daughter went to a historically Black college and university called Hampton, which Booker T. Washington was a graduate there. And she is out on the East Coast in Norfolk, Virginia. And then the oldest son went to Washington University at St. Louis, and very, very good school too. Both of those private schools. The youngest one, he was the smartest one of the bunch. He went to good old Oklahoma State University.
A good engineering degree, decided to go to Oklahoma State.
That's right. They get the same degree as his dad.
Well, Sam, you were talking about some of your involvements. You alluded to the Alumni Association. I'd like to take a couple minutes, if you don't mind, and kind of talk to you a little bit about that. You've maintained close ties with Oklahoma State University, obviously. I mean, through the years, through the College of Engineering and through the Alumni Association particularly, as well as some other things. You're a charter member of the OSU Black Alumni Association.
Right.
Can you tell me a little bit, well, and really you're a charter member and also served as president, I ought to say, and really been a driving force in that organization. And can you tell me about the inception of the Black Alumni Association and its goals and activities?
Right. Well, I was not, actually, I have to tell you, I wasn't a charter member. I was a long-term member, but there were some other people that chartered that organization. And, goals are about promoting African American well-being on that campus, and helping Oklahoma State to grow in its diversity mission. And we've had a lot of things, a lot of successes over the years. One of the things I'm most proud of is the beginning of a scholarship fund that's provided scholarships to, I think we're approaching 60, 70 students over the last, well, actually it's more than that. It's more like over 130 students over the years. And as I mentioned earlier, that's about the retention of students, because obviously when you lose a student that's an upperclassman, that's just a travesty, because they've already gotten through the early part, gotten off to a good start. We need them to finish. We shouldn't let money be a barrier. Another objective is to help increase the number of Black faculty and staff on campus. And a third objective is to be role models and mentors for those students. And then a fourth would be to be an advisor to the executive ranks of Oklahoma State, and make ourselves available to the officers of the university.
Some individuals question the need for Black Alumni Association. That's even under the umbrella of the
Sure.
OOHRP Alumni Association,
Sure.
which it is. What's your response to that, Sam?
Well, I think until this country has resolved its issues on race, there is still a need for it, because of some of my comments earlier, that people have a tendency to gravitate towards comfort. And I don't believe that people should view that if you have a Black organization, that's an indictment of a majority organization. I think the two can coexist, and we encourage our students to be involved with both. But when you are a minority, I think we have to recognize the unique position that minorities find themselves in, and that is of being a minority. And it's kind of a ever-present being. It's sort of like, how would I liken it to, if you were to take something to the depths of the ocean, and the deeper you go, the more pressure it is on it. And so if it was something, an object, then at some point you could crush it just from the external pressures. And so it's not that the ocean means to do that, it's just the overriding weight force of that mass on that object. So being alone and isolated may not seem like it's that much of an issue, but it certainly helps if students have an environment where they can celebrate their differences as we continue to grow as a country. And I think I look forward to the day where I say, boy, these type of organizations are needed. But I think in the interim, as we transition to that, having those bridges and those safe places in Harvard where people can have comfort makes sense.
Some African American alumni, when asked to participate, if you recall some earlier years in the new Alumni Association, shared that their OSU experiences hadn't always been as affirming, as positive as they liked. And I recall in one meeting, telling them bluntly, get over it.
Get over it. Get over it. Yeah.
Can you elaborate on your response?
Yeah, because I think this is the other side of the position I just took, which said that there's still a tremendous need for this type of organization on the campus. The other side of it is that we all need to assimilate and integrate. And it needs to go both ways. African Americans, and I admit some of our people are the toughest in this regard. And candidly, they have had some bad experiences. But the thing is that we're never going to get better, and we're never going to move this country forward if someone doesn't make the move. so I think it's a mark of strength if people can, who feel they've been wrong, can put it behind them and move forward, because they're standing on broad shoulders. There's others that have done that, and I think that's a compelling thing for other people and an example for other people when they see you put those issues behind, move forward. And it also teaches and models for the younger people who would follow you. So you're absolutely right. That's the other side of it is we need the organization. Let's have that level of comfort that it provides. But at the same time, we all need to get over this because we need to move forward.
I think I recall some of your add-on comments that was, it's our university, and we got to move forward and make it better for the ones that follow us.
Yeah, I always tell people that this is my university, and I feel like I'm entitled to everything that is available and at this university, and that it's that it offers, and I'm a part of it. And I intend and have always availed myself of everything that's there. And so I think it's important for us as African Americans who have passed through to claim it, and it's our right. And so, and we teach these. And the important piece of this now is that we have to try to do things that will change the landscape, and that so that the students that come along that behind us, if one of us has had a negative experience, we sure as heck don't want 20 years down the road some student having that same issue again. That's incumbent upon us to change that landscape.
Sam, we were talking about your involvement, with the Black Alumni Association.
Yes.
Maybe we talk a little bit about the Alumni Association. You were on the board of directors of the Alumni Association for several years. You served as national president of the organization.
I think I was the first African American to do that.
You had a lot of you absolutely were, and proud that I got to serve with you, Sam.
Yeah.
It's great. A couple questions for you. In your mind, think back a little bit. How important is a strong self-governing alumni association for the university?
I think it's hugely important. Hugely important. You need the university needs those advocates. It needs a strong alumni base. It needs the independence of thought that comes with having an alumni association that is there because people want to volunteer their time and their talents to the university, not because they're employed by the university. Of course, there's a different type of spirit that comes from that. Their love for all things orange and Oklahoma State in there, and that, which has to do with their connection and their life experiences of being a student there or a faculty member. So I think what it offers the university in terms of independence of thought, volunteer spirit, a reservoir of talent is hugely important to the future growth prospects of any university. You show me a university with a great alumni association, I'll show you a great university.
What can you share some of the programs and goals, accomplishments, alumni association during the times you're in leadership positions?
Sure. We had one of the things that I was proud of is that we grew the staff in a way in the programming area. I thought that was important. In that, but actually in all of our program areas, we not only grew our staff, we grew our resources. One of the things that I wanted the key things that I wanted to focus on when I got there was the actual programs, because I said that, the Alumni Association is of the people, by the people, for the people. And so we could do a lot of things, but ultimately, if we're not providing the type of services and that provide those connections that our members value, then why are we doing this? So I can't say that I can single out any one programming area. I think if we go back and look at the record, we grew our membership well that year. We strengthened our Hall of Fame. I think that across the board, that was an area that when you and I were working together, that we got better in programming. We put more focus on it. And then and the thing about being a chair for a year, you're actually just holding the seat for the next person. And so it's like a baton in a relay. Sometimes when you receive the baton, it's your job to take it and carry it to the next level and make sure it's in good shape to get to the next person. But I think that my mark there was ensuring that we did build across the board and strengthen all of our programming, and I think we're better for it today.
Was it a rewarding experience for you, Sam?
Hugely rewarding. I learned a lot. I mean, and I'm a guy that likes to be in situations that I learn. And I always wanted to do a good job for the university, so I felt the pressure and the need, in that role that year to live up to my part of the bargain, per se. But it was tremendously rewarding. You got to meet a lot of neat people. I got to interact with students and faculty, and people even today, they recognize me for that tenure there because they recognize that you're doing things in the best spirit. You're doing it as a volunteer for someone else. And that's, that altruistic behavior is one that we all should try to model and do. And it was a year that I gained more than I think the association gained.
In what ways did you see alumni being advocates for the university? What kinds of things can they do? Did you see them doing during your time on the board?
Yeah, let's take an area like recruitment of students. Well, what better way for an alumni is one to be a role model, demonstrate character, demonstrate the values that the university espouses, but good values that you should have in your life anyway. Being active in your community where people know you as a community servant, or a good citizen. You may not be able to go and serve on boards or trust or do some of those things, but you might be a good citizen and good church member. And people know you're an Oklahoma State graduate, then that promotes your university because people get to see this is how the type of people who come from that university. You can be active in your schools and assist through our alumni chapters, organizations with career days and other type of formal events, but then the not so formal, just advocating in every possible way around your children's schools or the schools in your community about Oklahoma State University, and being a connector to bring that when we see students out there in your community or in your school district that are potential Oklahoma State enrollees, kind of helping to clear the way to make sure that they're connected to the right officials at the university for recruitment purposes. That's just one area. Legislatively, we all are part of the political system. There's no saying that all politics are local. And so what better way to, in addition to attracting young talent, young students, is to work and advocate for your university, not as a paid lobbyist or anything like that, but someone that's truly passionate and loves their university. Nobody can tell that story better than us who attended there, to our political operatives, so that they can understand the need for strong educational institutions. And they hear it from you, and that to me comes with a lot of conviction. So those are just two ways, but I mean, it's just endless.
And you mentioned really in terms of being an ambassador for OSU, saying good things about OSU, being
Yes.
a good example for OSU is important as well, just to lift it up in the public.
Absolutely.
You alluded to that earlier as well.
That's exactly right. I think that's part of, again, I talk about the obligation to give back. You know, we get these wonderful degrees, and you find that whenever people introduce themselves, or if you see their bio, if you learn anything, you know, if they're a college graduate, one of the things that's going to come out fairly quickly is, where'd you go to school? Well, I went to Oklahoma State University. And I see people proudly announce, you know, their degree, and that becomes a part of their persona throughout their lives. And but you know, someone, you know, prior to us arriving, did a lot of work to make sure that that structure was there for us to attend that school.
Is that part
get
of
that degree.
That 4 and 40 that Virgil
That's
talked to you
what
about?
that's from that 440. It becomes a lifetime. Is what it does. So.
Yes. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Sam, are you excited about the direction the university's going under President Hargis' leadership?
Absolutely. I've known President Hargis for years, and I think he's the right man at the right time. And very pleased. God bless him for the work he's doing. I think our university's on a wonderful path. Just an incredible trajectory right now. There's a lot of spirit. Even in a down economy, I don't think that's going to dampen us at all. And we're working on our enrollment, which is the lifeblood of the university. Our alumni association is strong. We're improving I read all the time about academic accomplishments and awards that our students and our faculty are reading. Our research is improving. Dollars are coming in. And more than anything, when you have great your momentum, in order to keep that going, you need a good sound strategy, and people have to believe in that strategy, but you need leadership. You gotta have committed leadership, and I think what President Hargis does is he provides this at a very critical time. So I think the future for this university is incredible.
What about the 25-year campus master plan for Stillwater campus? What, 700 million plus or so? What do you think about that?
Well, you know, sometimes people think, well, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day, but it does get built. And I'd like to see them expand it even more. It's you got to dream big dreams, and we'll be successful. We'll get it done. It's just this economy will pass. So,
Sam, reflecting for a minute with me, if you will, there's some things you remember most about your OSU experiences? You know, first as a student, then as an alumnus. Are there some things
sure.
that stand out in your mind? Events, highlights, different
Sure.
things.
Well, you know, some of the events was getting to watch Barry Sanders play. You know, I remember when President Bush came to our campus. That was exciting. I think about beating OU. Rashawn Woods is still running. You know, that was a lot of fun. I think about all the great basketball wins I've seen in Gallagher, Iowa. I think about the nights that we study late as friends, be in the library, kind of joking and stuff, and close the place down. And I told this before, where I remember walking out of there many a night, and they used to have the flags on the north side of that library.
National Mall.
You could. I'd always hear those the ropes and those rings from that. They clang against those poles. That always stuck in my mind. Don't ask me why, but I guess it's just a quiet thing. But more than anything, Jerry, like yourself, I'm sure I can speak for a lot of loves. I remember the relationships, doesn't get any better, because you're forever young there, and you got your whole community within a small area, and it's great living. It's as good as it gets, I think. So
Special time of your life.
it is an incredible time of our lives.
Sammy, you've accomplished much in your life, obviously, and I'll say that. I know you would.
Thank you.
But with more ahead of you, hopefully. But how do you hope people remember Sam Combs?
Wow, I don't know, Jerry. I think someone told me once that the mark of a successful man is a person who has the love of small children and the respect of honorable men. And I always tried to understand, what did that mean? It sounded pretty cool, but I couldn't really quite understand. And I guess I think I get the respect of honorable men. The love of small children has something to do with your soul, I believe, because children are attracted to people who are open, and there's a pureness about them, that they're non-threatening. Kids want to come to them and things. And so I hope that when it's said that maybe it could be rolled up into he tried and he cared. And if people think that, then that's good enough for me.
Appreciate it. Sam, there's so many things we could have talked about and asked. I mean,
Sure.
help me. What else would you like to talk about? What have we left out, or some things you'd like to comment on that we've maybe not covered?
Well, I'm a guy that's got a lot of philosophies on life and things like that, but we've covered a lot of ground. I think you're doing a great job. I think we have to think about the state of education in Oklahoma. I mean, we have a tremendous spirit about us in the state. It's just there's a certain Western pioneer, whatever you call it, type of deal, and it permeates the state. But I think, we've, in some regards, failed the citizenry with respect to education. We've got to do a better job. We got to do a better job in primary and secondary education. We've got to create an environment where people want to go to school. They don't drop out. We don't have as many of the social ills that we do. To a small state, we cannot lose all of this good talent. And so I think with these institutions like Oklahoma State and others, that we have to find a way to not intimidate. Those buildings have to be friendlier. We have to be more inviting, if that makes sense to you. That makes people want to come there and pursue higher learning. I think that's because, Jerry, as I've looked at it over and over, and I mean, people used to, old timers, my parents and relatives who influenced me, they'd always say to me, boy, education is the key. And I heard it over, and I'm sure you heard it over and over again, that education is the key. And I look, search over the years, what is that common denominator, or that single determinant that improves people's lives? And, you go around, but when you get back to it, there's none better than education. If they become educated, then the world of opportunity opens up. And then it's just a matter of all of the stick-to-itiveness and things like that, dedication and character that go with it. But without that education, living in ignorance is a terrible thing. So the question gets to be, what can we do and are we doing all that we can to create an environment where education is a norm? People expect it in this state. So that's maybe it goes beyond what we're talking about, my situation, but I certainly believe for the university it's a compelling issue and a question for us.
We got to get more degrees in the state of Oklahoma, don't we?
We have to. That's the only way we're going to really, improve the base of our state, people's lives. Is more of them educated, more going out, better workforce, more opportunity for them, whether they're entrepreneurs or employed. That drives down, like I said, these social ills from teenage pregnancy, incarceration, things like that. Drugs. Drugs. It all the social ills comes from people, primarily from people that don't have an educated background. So.
Remember the bumper sticker on the back of the car said, "If you think education is expensive, try ignorance."
Yeah.
I always thought of that.
Yeah.
If you think about it, there's a lot to that.
Yeah. That's right.
And I think it's part of what you're saying.
It is. That's exactly right. And so, it's dogged us long enough, and I think I know Oklahoma State's part of the solution. It's got to be. So.
Appreciate it. Anything else?
No, I'm good.
Appreciate it, Sam.